Hello, all. Welcome to the third day of web development with me, Nirupama Singh, uh, as the person with you. And I'll wait for a few more minutes for people to join in and check in if I'm audible, the screen's visible, and everything. And then we'll get going. So, as soon as you join the session, please drop in a few comments. And hello. So, I hope I'm audible and we'll get started. And so basically, I will recap a little about what we had done previously and then what we are about to do today. So in the previous session, we had seen that, what is React? Why are we using React? Why is it the particular framework that we are focusing on at the moment? What we'll be building using it and how to set up a simple React app. And we set up a simple Hello World app, right? So moving further, today we'll be giving some of our to do app. So initially it was just a hello world, but today we'll work on the segment of the to do of the whole application, where you'll be able to add something live and delete, as well as we'll work on some beautification, which is where I'll tell you about CSS framework. That was something that was due to some network issues and all, it was missed out in the previous session, so we'll cover that as well. So without further ado, I hope you are making notes, and you can drop in your doubts any moment. I will just begin the session. Share my screen. So I hope my screen's visible. Yeah. So this is a simple normal app that I've made uh, using create react app command, and it's called to do. Currently, it's highly fresh here. Last session we went through how we can make it, so I'll just clear it out accordingly as discussed in the previous session. All right. So this is a clean, shows nothing React app, and currently we literally have nothing set up here. Uh, All right, so let's begin making our to-do app. First of all, we won't be focusing much on the CSS. We'll be just working on the functions that are used to make a to-do app to make it functional, and then we'll be working on the UI part of it. All right, so okay, all right. How many are there in the session? Numbers. Okay. Okay. Uh, So first of all, we'll work on the structure. What do we want in a to-do app? How does a to-do app look? In any React application, you make components that are reusable and then reuse them basically, as the name suggests. So I'll be making a to-do list. Okay, I'll just increase the font size. Okay, to-do list.js, and I will create a to-do item.js. right? So this will represent the list where we'll be adding stuff, and this will represent the item listing of the same, right? So when we move forward, then we'll be using that to do in our app.js. In the app.js, let's move to our app.js, and first let's import it. So this is how you import in function and use this for whatever components you're using. For example, we've made this to-do list and to-do item. They will not actually be anywhere used until and unless you use them somewhere as an import. So currently we'll be just importing the to-do list, and I will show you how it works. So we'll do a simple hello world there as well, and then we'll work on the functionality. So let's go and import to-do list from the address would be components and then to-do list, right? And then here we can use to-do list as a simple uh, tag without any thinking about anything here and there. We can simply just use tag and it works out. Okay, now I will do one thing. I will create a hello world here, so that you know only we'll create a hello world based on both item and list, and you'll be able to see that only list ones is fetched because that is the only item we have imported there. So import react from react and function to do list, and return, and I will do a h1 with hello to do list. Okay, and then we will export the file to do list. So this comes full circle. This is a hello, simple hello to do list, and maybe I can just copy paste this and the to do item and replace to do item, right? So now let's run this program. Npm start. All right, now you can look only hello to do list is being fetched, because but we had added code in both hello to do item and to do list. So now if I add, you get how components work now. Now let's move to the main parts of it, and I will share my VS Code again. Alrighty, let's move to do list and start building something that we have been here for in the longest time. Alright, so uh, as we have figured out before as well, to do items is for what listing the items that's going to come, and to do list is for the whole functionality of it, like adding and making a particular. All right. So first thing first, we will be making some UI about it. So let's name it to do my to do list app. Then we'll create a little form to collect what the user wants to submit. And all right. So let's create a input. Using the input, then the type would be text, so that there's flexibility with what you a person wants to add. Then there should be a simple Okay, we'll add value, but currently I'm going to leave it empty so that we know the procedure how it's being. We will have a little placeholder which says uh, add what you want to do, right? That's a weird sentence, I know, but I'll just add it there. We'll create a little button to input this, and we will just say add my new to do. So this is all simple, and you can add any text, you can add anything. It's the little main values and stuff that you have to remember, and then it's going to work on its own. Alrighty, and now we will make the function where, okay, let's give the name to the value. We will call it new to do. Okay, and we will create a. Now what we have to do is whenever this button is clicked, there should be a change that should add it to the local storage or whatever storage we'll be using further. So what I'm going to do is we'll create a little on change effect here, and it should be C capital. These are all things that you can learn through you reading a lot of blogs or something, blogs, tutorials, YouTube, Udemy, where you can see that these are some simple tasks that can help you evaluate and make bigger things in your life, right? So currently we are just you know if I do not name it to do list app, what all we can see here, that I am teaching her that how you can use the input field to add something in your storage, save it, and then as well be able to delete it, right? So that is what it comes down to add, delete, update, or edit something in a React app. It makes up for most of your functions. So it is not just about, okay, if you're learning this today, you'll just be able to make a to-do app. No, you will be able to do a lot more things using similar functionalities. And then in this tutorial we are only going to learn how to add and delete, but you can on your own, or in the next class we can do edit if it comes as a demand, like that we should be doing this. Then we'll definitely do edit and update, and which is similar update. And that is where you'll be able to learn a perfect CRUD application kind of a setup, and then be able to apply it at different locations. For example, for writing blogs or making your own blog website. All right. So I think let's go to the on change. Okay, let's continue this. We want to add an event. So on change event, simple E, and we will direct that event. This is JavaScript, and I hope you have some basic information to understand. So what I'm doing I am naming my function that will do the change, that will be called upon change to make changes in our application, and we will event.target.value, right? So this is the value that we had created, and whenever this input on change is called, which will be called when the button is clicked, it will call to a function called set new to do, and it will target the value of the input, right? So we'll have to give a little but how are these input and button connected? So we'll have to give it a little on change uh, to the button as well. So on click, right? So on click, what it should do is on click, it should go to add to do, right? So now what is add to do here? This is a new function that we'll be working on when I'll work on this, right? So today we are using local storage to store our data, currently, and then in the next class we can move to the Mongo setup of it. So let's create our first function. So what is add to do supposed to do? What add to do is supposed to do is pick up the data from the how we are going to picture it. So it will, whenever on click to the button, whenever this button is clicked, a function is called, which is called add to do. What this function is supposed to do is it is going to set the to do value from your input into the storage. But how is it going to work completely? So let's make a function. First of all, we'll be defining the little how these use states and all are going to work. So can you give me a minute? So to-do list is the main function, main component. It's a React component and can have its own state, which allows them to manage the data. So we are going to use states. Use states is the React functionality, and so is use effect. It's called hooks, and you can we'll be using the word hooks, use state, and use effect a lot to manage and state the uh, handle and state the data in our local storage at the moment. So if for example, in the to-do list.js file, you can see how you will see how we'll use state to manage the state of our to-do list, and use effect to save it. So whenever there's one item in our input and we click on the button, it picks up the data from the value, adds it, uses the use state part of it, manages to use that state that to do list item, and then while using use effect we can directly use it to save that data inside the big array of the to do list items that we are creating for ourselves, right? The state update triggers the triggers and re-renders, and the local storage ensures data persistence even if the page is refreshed. So for that particular session where the whole React app has been working, since you have done the npm start to when you stop it, the local storage will maintain the all the data that you've been adding, with even if on even if you refresh it. So let's see what use state and use effects are used for. First of all, the first step would be to uh, import the use state and use effect from the React file. So use state and use effect. All right. These are light colors at the moment because they're not being used. So we will whatever functionalities we try to build in a React app, they go between above your return, which contains the UI part of it, and inside the function. So let's create a function. First, we are going to define the variables. So this is to dos. Then this there is set to dos that we will define. So what are set to-dos and set to-dos? To-dos are singular items that we'll be picking from the input field, and set to-dos is the functionality that will define that pick up the to-dos and set it somewhere. Where that we'll see. So we are saying that use state and I still hope you are aware with how a JavaScript function is mentioned, and you do not have much problems this understanding this. But if you do, you can brush up your JavaScript skills, and this will work out for you. So const and saved to dos. This is the data that's already there in your local storage. So we will get all the local storage not get okay, it does come up here as to dos. So this is how they are saved in your uh, to dos is how it all your array of to dos are saved. So we are just calling to that, then return saved to dos if uh, this on dot parse. We will parse through our saved to-dos, which means we'll process it from the arrays. Uh, we'll process them in form of a JSON, right? So if not, keep it blank. Done. So now we will create the add to do function and the use effect function. All right, so we remember that use effect is used to store the data that we just used it to manage from the input field. So let's create this add to do. All right, uh, to do, and we won't be passing anything through it as such. And so if new to do, you can see what is new to do. New to do is the function that has been called on change in the input field. So if new to do dot reveal, just some applications to check if for validation, if it is not empty, right? So then empty is this, then we'll process with cons to do, and we will set a little more data to it. That is, we'll be storing when this is created. You can simply do that by a JavaScript function date.now, and then we will store the text of what is the new to do you want to do. So we'll call that store it here, the value from here. So this is the value of new to do, and this is where we are saving it at the text, right? So we can see that there is a new function we created to do, which will say store the time at which the new to do list item was created and the text that it stored, right? Now we will set the to dos, which is from here, set new to do. So we will set the to dos as an array. So what is an array? First, we already know there is an array of to-dos that we had already stored here, right? So this is a array which contains all the items. So in that array, we are using a function to add another item to it, which would be the to-do item from here. So in this array, we are joining this function and making a new set of array which is set to do's. Now what set to do's is, now set new to do will be turned into empty. Okay, what is the indentation issue? All right, so we have done this, but we did not set up the new set to do as an what is it? We did not declare it anywhere. So we'll just go back and declare it. There are a few items we forgot to declare, which is new to do, which was used here, and then there was set new to do, and we will set these and set them to use state, which is manage the data stored in them. So first, you can see that we have made up the add to do function. Now, I want to see what is the data that has been, uh, you know, stored while it's being stored, so that I'm sure that the local storage thing is working. First of all, we did not set up the use effect for the add to do, so let's do that. Use effect, uh, local storage dot I set item and to-dos JSON dot stringify. So here we passed through it. Now we are making it into a string so that it can go back and be stored in that array. To-dos. There is a simple error. I'm just trying to look for it. So it says parsing error, unexpected token, comma, expected this. Line 15 of 25. Okay, this my bad. There should have been a comma. Let's see so it's successfully running, right? So we have managed to stay just body shaping. Alrighty. So we found the error, fixed it. So this is how some of the React works. That it's very important to have the right indentation, the right commas and semicolons, and then it will eventually show you the error, and you do not have to worry about anything, right? So let's move on. So we have managed to pick up the data from the input field and store it inside our local storage. Now I want to see what I just wrote along with the writing. Like whenever I save it, it should show immediately to me. So that is where the to do item thing comes up. We'll be making a little array, which would be a simpler thing to do, honestly, and then we will display it here. So let's do one thing. First of all, uh, we will create the to do item array component and work on it. So we'll just remove these, or what we could do is just simply remove these, honestly. And uh, we will create first, we'll create the UI. What we are trying to basically do here is represent the text that's being stored there. What did this do? Yeah. The to-do items that we are storing, we just want to represent them here with a little delete button so that in case there's something wrong or you're done with it, you can just delete it. So we'll add that as well over here. Let's see. So let's add a span and we can just do uh, okay, let's say for that, for example, I will just show list item one here. We will just hard code the data, then I'll show you how we can pass the data, and we'll create a button here and which is delete or I am done with the task, right? And that's all. And but this is hard coded data. How is it going to work? What are we doing with it? What did I just do? So what we'll do is we'll actually go to the to do list again, and we will work on the we will fetch the to do item. So let's fetch it first. Alrighty, import to do item, and we will okay. VS Code did it. To do item, and yes, we have imported to do item. This is the address where it is, and we'll do let's fetch the button here. So we'll create a new segment here. Let's create some break over here, and then the UI part of it, we will call the segment, and that's all. Now I will show you how the data is being passed over here. Hmm. Hmm. So let's make a function. We already know the function. We are already listing all of the data inside the to do, right? This is where all of the data is being stored. We'll just call that function, and call it by its ID, and represent all the text that is being stored, right? So, no, wait. Yes. Wait. Yes. So this is the function. We are already storing all of our data in the to do function, and then putting all of them in the to do's array. So what if I called all the functions from the to do functions with their ID and their text, and then simply presented them here in the to do item, right? So for that we'll have to map the data. So what is mapping, right? Why did I just say map the data and stuff? So mapping is basically is a type of a data structure or data collection that is used to store the data in the form of key and value pairs, and then we'll be calling them directly here in our page, and represent showcasing them. So what I'll do is I will we will be passing the items here, to do and this. Okay, so let's begin. First, we'll create a little map function, and here, let's create a to do's. This is the array which creates all the which has all the to do items that we want to do, and then we will call the we will call it to do. So we are calling the to do's and calling it naming it to do here. Then by that we will call the function, and this is the item we are going to call it upon. And so what this means is whenever this item is called or an item is passed through it, we have seen here that we stored the text list item text and a delete button along with it to delete that particular item. So this will be called here. Now let's see how that can be called. First of all, we'll set the key on which it is being called. So inside the to do, we will search for the ID, and that ID, particular ID, will be called here, and it will be the data for that text for that particular ID would be printed here, and to do value that is being fetched, and now I will create a function called on delete over here, and on delete further, and on delete we should be able to what just happened. Okay, on delete, I will call a function which is called delete to do. right? So and we will create the delete to do function up here in the same to do list page, and then we'll be good to go. All right, let's create delete to do function here, and it will be based on the id. It will completely delete the to do from this complete set of the id that we are calling upon, right? So we'll create to do and delete to do by id, and because id is the one that we are playing along with in our whole application, and then update. Now what is basically happening in the to do? We had 8 items. Now we want to delete the one item, and what will that what change will that bring? It will bring the change in the to do's array, that one or two or more of the items are changed. So there's an update. There's basically an update in the array that some items are either removed or added. So we will call it updated to do's. The whole list will be updated, and it will be updated on the basis of we will drop using a JS function. We will drop filter, or we will drop the inside the to do, and based on the to do ID, set to do's is updated to do's. So what we did here is we filtered the to do ID and removed it and updated. No, no, wait. I'll explain it again. So this is the to-do ID that we were supposed when the delete to-do item is function is called, it picks up the ID. When the ID is being picked, what we do is we filter out the to-do array, to-dos array based on the ID that was called, and we do not let it stay inside the delete to-dos array. And when it's removed, the rest of the array is set inside the updated to-dos, and then updated to-dos is the array that is used to set the to-dos of the app. So basically, the same function that we were calling here is the function that we'll be calling here and updating our application function, right? So this is how we call the to do item over to our function. Now let's go back to the to do items and fix it the way we wanted to look, and fetch the items from the to do list inside the to do item. So there were a few functions that we were calling. Let's see, there was one was to do, and the other was delete to do. So we will just call those functions here, and why do we not need to call the same the to-do list component inside this component? Is because it is already being called inside the to-do list component, and when this whole you see here, when this to-do item is rendered here, everything inside this component starts working on its own. So this is basically like this part of the code is there in that component only. It's just there in smaller segments, and the larger segment is here. All right. So we call the functions that we were supposed to use. Now, okay, my bad. We will okay. Now we will call the text here, right? We need to list the text. So we will to do is the function we are calling to fetch the data and text, right? Because that is how it was saved in here. Okay. And on this button, we will create a on click function. And on click, what it is supposed to do is it should listen to the to delete to do function that we had created in the previous page. Delete to do based on the to do ID, because that is what we were passing in here in the delete to do. based on yes. So we are through with the code, and it does not have a very specific UI to it at the moment, or anything that makes it look very fancy or that sort of, but it should work is what I'm guessing. So let's go and check this out. Uh, it's successfully running, so I don't see any errors. So what I'll do is share my Chrome screen. So I we see that there is a my to do list app as I had mentioned. So this is what our to do list.js looked like, right? We had a h1 text, then we had an input, then we had a delete button, and then there was a to-do item which we had called below it. But what was to-do item? It was the list of the items that we had stored before. So currently there's nothing below it because of the same thing that there's nothing inside our to-do. So let's uh, set up a few to-do things that I'm going to do today, because we've learned something today. So I will revise my React skills. Let's add that to my new to do, revise my React skills. And currently, because we do not have a very well defined UI, you can see that it just shows up into basic HTML UI. Delete, I'm done with the task is the button that we had added. And I'll add another feature here, sleep, because it's a Sunday. And then I'll add uh, the Shera Vela because it's festive here. Uh, and that's all. Now, when I'm done doing my revision of the React skills, what I'll do is delete or click on this. Okay, so there is some issue that showed up. Let's see why this is showed up. It says that delete to do is not a function, and let me check how. How? Okay, we'll check this out together. Uh, so we saw the error that delete to do is not a function on uh, which page? Which page? Which page? Which page? All right, the main application. So delete to do is a function here. Delete to do is a function here. What did we name it here? Delete to do. Did we miss out on any spellings? First, we'll check the spellings. All right, found the issue. So my on that is on me. Instead of writing on delete here, which is the basic JavaScript function, I ended up writing delete to do here. So on delete, delete to do, on delete, right? So this is also on delete, and then we'll check here if it's correct all over here. On delete is the function that calls delete to do. So this is what we were calling initially, and then I messed up in the naming. And so on delete is the function we are calling. So whenever that button is clicked on delete, the delete to do function will be called. So these are two different names. So I think we are good to go here now, and I will check it. Okay, I'll just refresh it. You can see the data is still being stored. Now I will delete the sleep and it deletes. Further, you can also, we will be working on the UI UX part of it where a pop-up shows that are you sure you want to delete and so on and so forth. Currently, it's just that the functionality is working and everything looks like, so this is the basic functionality of the React app we wanted to create. Now we will make it more user friendly. We will make it more lookable, likable by the user, or basically you will use our favorite colors, some animations, some good background, and I will be telling you how we are going to do it. So I hope you're clear with whatever we have done till now. But what is the next step of it? What is the how are we going to do? Are we going to use custom CSS for all of it? Yes, we can, we might, and but the thing is, I want to teach you more about frameworks. And another of the frameworks that we'll be going around in this session is Bootstrap framework. So, what is Bootstrap? Is a CSS framework that you can simply use. Uh, it contains a billions of predefined custom CSS that can help you reduce the number of line of codes you write inside your css. Use the predefined ones, and when you want to make it more personalized, you can start adding your own custom css to it in your css app, in your css file, right? So why use bootstrap? And there are more like bootstrap, tailwind, that you will love to explore more around. You can go check out their documentations. They have a lot of examples and a lot of ways that you can use their product. For React, Bootstrapper has helped us make React Bootstrap, and which helps us not only have predefined custom css but as well as predefined custom tags. So for example, if you want to use a container type of a layout for your website, all you have to do is write containers or rows or columns, and it will be done for you. So when we make for example, we make a list in html, we write ui, li and all. But if I write set items or something in that language that bootstrap allows us to do, then it will have a little better ui, more better indentation, and even better spacing and all, predefined by bootstrap, but which you can always change, right? So first I'll show you how this react bootstrap can be used, and it is a simple tool, two line process. The first line would be, let's go to a new terminal. Inside our app to do, what we are going to do is install Bootstrap. So npm I or install, both work. Uh, we are going to write Bootstrap. This is the command that there's on the internet as well. And then there's React Bootstrap. These are the two things we'll be installing. Let's go. All right, so this was installed perfectly. Now we'll go to the next step and do simply just fetch the, like, mention the bootstrap inside that code so that this npm package is being used. So inside our app.js, all we have to do is copy and paste a line, I would say, but yeah, I can show. No, not inside app.js, it's inside index.js. And all you have to do is import the bootstrap. How do you import it? Just write import, and there is a particular fixed line where it is stored. It is stored inside bootstrap. Then this is a line that I can send on the WhatsApp channel as well, and you can even check this out on the website of React Bootstrap. So we've done this, and the moment you will do this is the moment you'll see a lot of change in your application, right? So first, let's go to to-do list and do a little extra additions and stuff. So how do you call a React Bootstrap component or a predefined tag to your React Bootstrap component? We will import stuff. So let's do the basic one. As you remember, in the uh, output that we were just checking out, there was no margins or anything on the outside. So we'll just set up a simple margins and paddings of stuff to our application using containers, rows, and columns, right? So this is how you, what did I just do? Wait a second. Uh, we were supposed to. Yes. So inside the to-do app, in the to-do list component, I will import the container. I hope the screen is visible. So I will import containers and I will import row mm, and from React Bootstrap. So how do we use these containers and rows? They are simply just predefined tags that I can use, and there will be not a single problem doing that. Uh, let's also call column. Then we had a particular form in this page, so I'll call form as well. Then there were buttons, so we'll call the button as well. And there was a list that we were working on, that was the to-do item list. So we will use the list as well. List group is basically uh, compensation for UIE, unordered list and ordered list. Form is basically for forms, creating forms and better UI to it. And column is for columns, right? As you already know. What I'll do is I will copy this whole code. Okay, let's not copy it. Let's simply take use the tag container, then use the tag row. Okay, then the column one. And what's next here? If we had a H1, we can simply use it. There's nothing that we want to fix in it at the moment. All right. Now there was a form next to our heading, this form. So let's call the form function. Inside form, when you'll visit the documentation in React Bootstrap, we can use form groups as a, okay, form dot group. Close it so that this is all for the UI part of it. It does not affect our functionality at all. We will do form control, which is compensation for the input function. And so whatever was there in our input function, we'll be using, replacing that inside the form control. Let's do that. Okay. So as you can see, none of the main functionality parts have changed. Only the UI part of it has changed. Then we saw that, okay, let's do this. Then there was a button before next to forward control or the input function, right? So we will call the button here, and that's it. Let's keep the parts that were made to our functionality, and let's give it some color. For example, there are some predefined colors inside Bootstrap. There's primary, secondary, danger. Danger is basically red. Then there's success for green. So let's add success here. So this is use the color of the success to fill up the color of the button, right? Further moving on, what did we have next? There was space, 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 but I'm pretty sure you can understand we do not require to break it, as we have already mentioned rows and columns and stuff. So let's create another column so that there's a differentiation between our list and as well as the adding the items part of it. Let's use the list group dot this is the function we want to call inside the list group, the mapping of the to do thing. And this is all. This is all we had to do to convert this into a bootstrap. You can see this is nothing different than setting CSS. Instead of writing containers and rows at the moment, what other we could have done? We could have gone to our CSS, written that my div should have a margin on all ends of 20 pixel, and so on for all the colors. Currently, we are not doing that, right? We're simply using the predefined bootstrap functionalities and letting then we'll do the custom part of it, where we can simply do anything here, call that class name over here, and good to go. Okay, let's check out. React app. Oh, yes. How is it this way? Because we did not work on the bootstrap part of the to-do item.js, but we did work on the to-do item to-do list.js. So you can see there's a little change in the font. This is how the input looks now. Now it has a click animation of this blue showing up, and there's a button, and the color is green as I mentioned before. And okay, I will show you on live how this can be. Okay. Now, I will share my screen. I hope you can see it. And let's go to the group items, right? Okay. So we already saw the changes in to-do list.js, and I feel there should be some space above this button. So we'll just go to the button, give it a class name, and call it maybe give it a top margin, which would be M, and then T for top, and then 3. So we can go from 0 to 5 with any margins or paddings here. You can see this looks good now. Why is it being shared in half over half? Because we did not mention the column size, right? So let's do one thing. Let's mention the column size. We will just call it div and class and call col 12. And similarly for this, now you can see it has automatically changed. Div dot class and column 12. And I think there should be some space up here as well. So I'll give it a padding top of 4, and you'll see a change here, right? Uh, Now let's turn the lower part of this page into a React Bootstrap UI as well. So what we'll do is, as we have done before, we will import the container. I don't think we need many things here. We might need a button. We need a container row. Uh, but container and row are already defined. So what I'll do is I'll only call the button and from React Bootstrap, and change this button into button, and we can mention the variant here, and let's give that variant because it's delete, let's give it danger red, right? It will turn into red, but I still do not like how it looks a lot much, because this is in different sizes and all. So we should add the uh, rows and columns here. Let's add row and column here, uh, and if we define this whole thing as a row and define each this text as a column 6, right? Dot column 6 will basically turn that into a div with a class name dot column 6, and let's add this here, and let's give this button as well a column 6. So now this looks a little better, but I think we still need some space between these two. So for each row, let's mention a top margin of 3 yet again. All right, so this looks a little more neat to me, and it lets okay. Add bootstrap is my another. Add better bootstrap is my another to-do list to do, and this adds up here, and it's okay. Why did not we add a container here? Because then it will end up giving this one, because the container ended up giving this particular space to our application, this space. And if we want, we can have it give it more padding to it. So let's say we give it a padding of 5 as mentioned in the bootstrap. So this is how it will end up looking. Or we can just give it for y axis, and the x axis looks as it is. On the whole, it will look like this. and there are various ways where we can work on it, add animations, work on having this on another page, or these buttons over here. There's so much we can do with it. So I hope you've learned something from today's class, and I will stop sharing the screen now. And I hope you've learned something from today's class, and you will do this on your own, update it into your GitHub repos, and send it back to us with your updated GitHub readmes. Thank you so much for attending the session, and for whatever doubts or anything that you can that you have, please feel free to text me on WhatsApp in our channel. And thank you so much. Have a good day.